the institutions forming that to finance the whole, really a no-brainer. What the governor has.
All right, thanks. I've touched on some key. PCGC has been since its inception of leaning in led households and approach the cooperation to micro and what take up
is to the table probably prior to would have been a little bit SMEs that in a lot of acquired collateral stage, the realized or maybe collateral before barrier and businesses that could not achieve finance. And we worked with Sander Nansky, going and talking bankable what we need to do to become. Now I need to say that a lot of informality, but we our products, some of kind of with the rank and file of 2024, which has, you know, we have people, they go it in the end, financial statements. A few of our in that group initiative, which is a woman's guarantee, did not barrier financial. In touch with them and ask amend it so we can a work in progress. Looking at the part able to fill those. We've and we're going towards our but you repeat client and so on. So it's across the region.
Over to you, Miku. From your perspective, and institutions, institutional or business, to led as well as
coming in the feeds into the finance. The issue also use we have financing constraint. A lender, a bank the enabling in commercial banks face and lend to MSME. The governor just said, only so the central bank institutions are on. Does the banks have that space? Banks have this space area in financing MSMEs as well. Look on social, the printed press to promote products, and they're not short flexibility impacts MSME. For women, needs the scaling. Is that period where you would have to necessarily lender to realize.
Even in the presence of banks, or we have the guarantee product come in to proliferate among.
Oh yes, because you know that's, let's say for instance, a young lady, she could turn a amazing comes to business, knowing fully well, right? It also impacts them. Commercial banks or any other, some formality, record of saving. What to say, and say it's not that tools available.
There must be the tools that these tools and
Right.
use it.
Trains would never, even if we have willing partners.
To you, how SMEs can guarantee credit guarantees fully this gap in the Caribbean.
Several studies that's actually can shift men into women. Caveat. But Miklos was just not a silver bullet. Firms themselves more technical assistance, business models, the good governance. So we just commissioned a study, the disparity of the number of countries that this themselves training to sector. So always an ecosystem. Players are, I think, again, push. Where do we to achieve?
Quite interesting that you'd and it being a in terms of to you in terms of the I know many their job to these MSMEs may be constrained. Where exactly in the ecosystem?
Ability programs to provide what we call business support. So chambers of private accelerator financing support or very low cost capacity on the ground. Establish because I also not the same ecosystem, which is support our cultural and creative, provides that technical listeners, Caribbean program firms, the youth organizations across the region as well. So what we also do a methodology provide support. So we would train who are then in country. As an apex, conducting that training.
Wonderful responsibility.
It is a shared responsibility. Is that there's the capacity, so organizations are training some more capacity, focus on when we did our roadshow, people this in order to come to know who to go to. And you know, there be places to the and us we will put it in, talk to the bank and you're doing so. There was we have a people agencies if there is that gap would really not be access to finance.
Even with firms like using the same tech, because while in the maybe higher EY, Deloitte, technical assistance, and
Well, thanks for that. Just globally, improving society ambitions as a plan. So effects of climate change. You know, green finance. How do you to encourage such as renewable energy?
Okay, so October 2024, any of our products and October 20 infrastructure and so be in the forefront of offering guarantees energy to the grid. Our contribution in the region. Yeah, scale to the MSME framework discussion to some of our all land solar farms, the government grid and so on. Okay, it is also there in the space.
The lessons that have emerged to that green space.
And again, thanks for when it comes to green. Found is I keep using it with MSMEs. I the force not just take out a loan, climate finance. What is that as a financial benefit? So, but is it going to have demonstration investment? What we have found is start to think that way. So, you know, this is design. You're talking on within the business. Like our CDP resources with our own MSMEs to be green initiatives. The lessons learned, it has a demonstrated and also those approach. So started by think there's so you know do you know the business certain advantage in that. Basically, I think those are some more traction in that.
Close. I know you've worked at CB for quite some time. My question to you, the mainstreaming perspective. Private sector advisory help central banks integrate their credit programs as, for instance, a we should head into. We monitor for green finance, sustainable ventures.
Start off by saying everything we should set up. It's generally a good practice. Banking easy, it makes things easy as well too. we definitely, in terms of having this line, as some groups to understand that women face in the region and of the dynamic. Start crafting the product. It speaks to which is something that we really a lot of emphasis on ways to shortfall, and that's data. Data rich out there is just as to be able to have more customers from the and also and then the bank sort of data mines information that's needed, diagnostics done.
And so, thinking out loud, data-driven approach, there's a case then of a PR financial return. Some of these indicators inclusive and resilient finance.
First thing, the data in itself, thanks to my customers, say to add another my customers, it does even from and a climate usefulness in from what's our exposure to chronic, right? What's where what's the percentage of our customers, our exposures, right? Ones where we could say to do that, right? So there's useful a PR and that's how we take that. There's need for that in terms of that. Gender sensitive Caribbean, like some other countries, there are certain to lending. We don't have that. Sometimes being neutral does not solve the case as well. Going to things with bias towards women that even so even gender, right? A bank will come to its board, indicate, sector than men. And the opposite is also. My brothers in the audience. So more credit.
That's what you believe. I mean, like that you raised that anonymous with all the investigate on truly marginal. Just by speaking to some here in the believe that mainstreaming or the need and women and real. I think it's important on those actually both if we can determine the targets in some women-led firms where research shows comfortable that
Of course, you don't even have to put I used to do. My father would cut that information to the data and financial institutions whatsoever. Hold that data, which would still be up. That would continue thing, right? Wait, right? Focus.
All right, wonderful. One more question to the floor for the role of how can CPCGC, Deloitte, system we were speaking the future in terms of collaboration, look at meet our shared agenda foremost in access to credits in the Eastern Caribbean.
I mean, strategic, sector or Deloitte, beyond, do have to work together. Ecosystem approach along a continuous pipe. I see us assistance and the strengthening of the institutions to get the they grow as they get increased access to coming in with the business. Obviously, resources, loan or equity, different various business. We each collaboratively MSME report at one point, and then it almost again when they go to us to collaborate. MSME can work and be able to benefit its offerings.
All right, wonderful. LFIs. What do you see that partnership? You
Involved, started, it was have been present until the Caribbean. We have not agreed. We collaborate, conversation just grew to where we are. Kind of begun. We have our fold and have signed on, but have so we can and the part as far as granted qualifies down the route of we do business approach to doing can't take a lending. It's a different position. So the partnership our time and to in terms of
Thank you for that. Miklos?
Well, what Deloitte, we had the entire process supply side. Is that we want the and post amend the financial plan, get them credit ready. Afterwards, we do proactive services that in our are independent and actually do our independent farming against your which is advanced. About the strategic MSMEs maybe. So how do you it also gain some of the capital lending to MSMEs towards that. So make sure that right the Deloitte bankability training, as you mentioned, officers is not just it shouldn't be a strategic paradigm. You lend are not a lender. Visits to the business, workshops, even on content tools and financial strategy region from the most MSMEs is give workshops, organize and track your for MSMEs who may not have strategy, right? Along. There are some mentioned before. It may be prohibited to come to a pro bono. Working with the ECDB organize and say, okay, MSMEs can come out.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. In terms of collaboration. And so, colleagues, the importance briefly on led firms, green partnership, and audience. Any questions you may have?
Hi, good morning, panel and to right? Just did a quick search. America and the United States, like upwards of 90% of America correct. And in terms of the contribution, 19% now to the Caribbean, it's almost like philosophical to support them because I don't really see the potential. That big portion that we're not allowed, kind of like that we have and which the fact that and this, those things converge for go into the financial but more of things who just and in some fintech model loan for some equity lending. Traditional approach that we just wanted to put that curb, and we say touch the coal. And I think
Yeah. No, that's a very good. The in the European banking offer disintermediation, and disintermediation region as the governor, right? Put on to lenders. Obviously, as a bank, this up as a service. Eliminate one, your deposit, right? Deposits, and it does the from a helps the economy. Once intention is the to get a started from be able to get that business going. We could do in the region once the banks are time and put.
But point as well, locking that. I think one of the is that this before up 5% of all business MSMEs contribute to GDP more than what you would, etc. It's really, and I think on fixed to be able to unlock that. What has become of the or one of the main utilization and energy. So we did a recent yet which looked at the private sector innovation and so on. Research indicated that of MSMEs technology. Okay. And I think the focus on that and on digital SMEs tackle that, as I said, from a point of view of just operations, but the whole so technology and to be more see that luring and a lot more.
I see two hands, Sybil, and then
Benny.
The financial institution, well, financial institution portfolio, 100, 900. A lot of the financial product delve into significant amount of the finance. Maybe the data don't significant amount of you would probably see about in terms of fairness. I'm not saying that more can be done.
Right.
Yeah. Agreed. PCPCGC was built in organization. I strongly recommend institutions because nation they divide and so on. So, propose that approach.
Good, yes, good morning all. Many of us and older and young come to conferences really and the problem. I think the agenda, urgency of now, urgency of yes, because that was what I wrote and I'm involved. Which has been diagnosed as a boy, and my colleague have to find new. No way that big push that with our institutions on this between and that not yet financial services. One of the things we do in other countries is that pipeline philosophy. Be ready to be back. What you are ready to do tomorrow, and so get to that stage. And just we are operating silos, which is part of productivity. A business today, business tomorrow, new one. But what we see is the loans, trying for more loans to address what they had, and then Peter to pay for paying. And so financial institution and they come back and they still have that that's a financial service. It should have graduated from 1990 to 35, right? Yes, if that business hasn't that relationship, where do we want moving? If 100%, what would we want to like in 20 in terms of value? We have to look. We tend to look at X amount of low output, but what business to the economy? A lot of coming in as loans. But what would the percent? Whole growth, but growth. Really looking at impact. Then we'll be able to, or are we just out? And I think that is what we continue to have for going overseas. All. I mean, I can't even go to the bank. Don't 3 years. I need that, but I have an on. Just there were ideas. We So how do you start to get? It has to be a banking potential, and it.
All right. A contribution. And before much, Sybil, one more question. Invite reaction, as well as a.
Yeah, Mike. Want to understand the difference and investment. What I mean by that is that a player, the same people, what we are suggesting, invest. If people get together and create investment, they can create what they call funding a little bit, activity, and you'll be so on board. What saving is all about. I am investing for a return. So if you encourage the organization to understand that for whatever purpose, it's in the business. Then they better come and participate. It's a simple one. Recognize the difference, force them into activity, and what the difference.
Thank you so much for that. Questions, Pano.
Oh, yes, no, very. So I just wanted to agree on some aspects of what you said. Been evolving and to the call. But I think that there has, importantly, I think we are about credit. That when you look at life cycle, actually required. Startups and ideas at how do we financial infrastructure itself so that pools of funding that are between financing for that business as well. It's expensive for until you are, it might, right? It might let's say, you know, I have a full eco looking at the carbon development that in Jamaica, startup accelerators for facilities. We know at trade finance, financial institutions, that would be more appropriate. Businesses supporting a lot of, so it's not a one that I've seen on the spectrum with financial work with. Also a call that those businesses, given the facing to parties.
Yes, yeah, as Sybil as well too. Not so much on financing. I think that it's a marriage approach parties as with a MSME must be the ambition point in time. For instance, bottled water company. Let's know that years down the line, at least to export. And the financial institution to meet you have
the here and now.
Right.
And that you cannot get progressive growth. And so it's not a concept. It's been an age-old practice of banking which has brought the German economy to that level of progress. And we went through and we heard testimony after testimony
I could imagine.
about that. So what
I
I'm
could
saying is
imagine.
not a concept or idea, it's a practice.
Right.
What we don't have in the region is that philosophy and that practice.
And that's why we mentioned the strategic realignment that's required by the financial institutions to really nurture the MSME credit lending.
All right, Carmen, any last words?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, maybe from the bankers in the room, I mean, what really is a mission? What my sense of it is that, you know, we are a lender, we do financial services, we have targets to meet and so on. And I'm saying that because when ECPCGC was, when we got the model, it was suggesting that the banks would train the MSMEs, which to me just can't happen. There are different areas. The training of the MSMEs and bringing them to the table and making sure they have the skills and so on is more, I think, within the remit of either the banking support, the business support organizations, the chambers of commerce or so on. And if we have some kind of strategic alliance between the chambers or the business support organizations where they can nurture and grow, and I am agreeing with you, Sybil, that our bankers do need, our MSMEs do need nurturing and assistance with growth and development. If we do have some sort of symbiotic relationship between the nurturers and the financiers, I think we can see the growth that you're looking for from year to year or from decade to decade. But I think it's something that needs to be, maybe ECCP needs to nudge the various bodies in that kind of direction, because I know from experience that our MSMEs are suffering. We have a database of people that we would have met and asked them for different things to get them bankable, to get them to the table, and they can't produce it. They just do not have the know-how. And because our resources are very constrained, while we want to do it to our best intention, we really can't go out and do what we know is possible to do with these people. So, you know, one has to look at the whole ecosystem in terms of growth and development. It doesn't start from when you go to the bank or when you come to ECPCG for a guarantee. It starts from when you start small, somebody needs to come on board and show you, this is what you can do. Are you on board with that? And we also need to acknowledge the fact that there are some people who want to stay small. So not everybody would grow. But for those who want to grow, we need to take them on board, embrace them, and give them the tools for growth and development.
All right, thank you so much for that submission, Carmen. And so on behalf of the governor and the management of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, as well as the Research, Statistics and Data Analytics Department and its management team, I just want to say a resounding thank you for availing yourself for this discussion this morning. And to you, our listening audience, thank you so much for your indulgence. There you have it, expanding access to MSMEs, to ensure resilience.
Thank you.
Thank you.